It's not just that the MSM and political left have fascistic tendencies, it's that they're also raging hypocrites as well. I'm gonna call them
Hippo-fascists.
Viva Frei, former Montreal litigator turned current Florida rumbler, and I can't stream today during the day because I am on the waiting list to testify as a witness remotely in a criminal trial. It should be funny, I have forewarned the attorney that asked me to testify that expect them to pull up some tweets to attack my credibility or bias, but setting that aside, while I wait for that, unless you've been living under a rock or don't spend quite as much time on Twitter and social media as I do, you might have heard that Tucker Carlson is in Moscow ready to interview none other than Satan himself, Vladimir Putin. He put out a 5-minute video explaining why he is conducting an interview of Vladimir Putin, as if anyone in their right mind thinks that a journalist needs to explain why they are interviewing perhaps the most influential, for good or for bad, the most influential person in the world at this current point in time.
We're in Moscow tonight. We're here to interview the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin. We'll be doing that soon. There are risks to conducting an interview like this, obviously, so we thought about it carefully over many months. Here's why we're doing it. First, because it's our job. We're in journalism. Our duty is to inform people.
So Tucker puts out a video explaining why he's doing it. I think we all know the reason. MSM is a load of propagandist crap. They are liars. They are hypocrites. They are not to be trusted any more than you can throw them, and they are basically the mouthpieces to the regime. And the response to Tucker Carlson's announcement that he's going to interview Vladimir Putin confirms all of that. It's not just that they have fascistic tendencies, it's that they are hypocrites, they are jealous, they do not respect free speech, they just want to control the mic, they want to remain in power, and they would do anything they can in order to remain in power. But before I even get into the meltdown, the hypocrisy, the sheer insanity of it all, once upon a time I had a discussion with a neuroscientist, not my wife, as to what was the difference of the brain between the left and the right, because there is definitively a difference in the brain between the left and the right. There's a reason why they say if you're young and you're not a liberal, you have no heart, but if you're an adult and you're not conservative, you have no brain. There are some children that never grow up. There are some people that get more immature as time goes on, but there is a definitive difference in the brain, the world perspective of the political left and the political right. With that said, and before we get into the meltdown, there was an important question that was asked by a friend of mine, another internet lawyer, Ian Corzine. Well, actually, I don't want to reduce him to being an internet lawyer. He's a lawyer. He also has internet social media presence. Ian Corzine put out a short video asking the question, is it even legal for Tucker Carlson to interview Vladimir Putin?
Tucker Carlson is interviewing Vladimir Putin today, and many people believe it's going to go horribly wrong for Tucker. My first question was, is it even legal for a U.S. reporter to go over to a country that we're basically at war with and interview the president of that country? The answer is yes, but I forecast some big problems ahead for Tucker Carlson. The Espionage Act is a U.S. law that basically prohibits us from spying or leaking classified documents.
It's an interesting question. I'm not going to play the entire video. I'm going to direct you to his social media accounts. His bottom line answer is yes, but it's risky. And we have lived through the time where those children who grew up into adults, the political left, the hacks at the MSM, they will fabricate crimes out of whole cloth. They will organize and carry out smear campaigns in the absence of any criminal wrongdoing or even accusations thereof. So they don't actually need a crime in order to prosecute someone. I think Donald Trump can answer that in a number of states. They don't need truth in order to run a smear campaign. I think Nicholas Sandmann can answer to that. And they don't need any understanding of the law in order to run foregone conclusions of guilt. Kyle Rittenhouse, I think he can testify to that. But Ian Corzine asks the important question, cites the Espionage Act, which I have no doubt someone out there is going to be creative enough to bastardize to find a reason to go after Tucker Carlson. Apparently the EU is already announcing potential sanctions on Tucker Carlson for having interviewed Vladimir Putin. From the so-called Republicans against Trump, new European lawmakers are considering slapping Kremlin propagandist Tucker Carlson with sanctions, including a travel ban, after Carlson conducted, unquote, interview, end quote, with Vladimir Putin. Louis Verhofstadt, a former Belgian prime minister and current member of the European Parliament, told Newsweek, quote, as Putin is a war criminal and the EU sanctions all who assist him in that effort, it seems logical that the External Action Service examine his case as well, end quote. Republicans against Trump? I think they should change their Twitter handle to Republicans against free speech. Imagine the audacity of putting the word interview in quotes as though anybody even knows how this interview went, as though this is not a bona fide legitimate interview. Everybody running foregone conclusions that Tucker Carlson is a Putin apologist. They haven't even seen the bloody interview yet. And you know, sometimes in order to get a good interview, in order to get your interviewee to speak, you can't necessarily come off as a hyper-aggressive, critical, cynical individual. I mean, I'm not particularly good at doing that, but I'm not interviewing Vladimir Putin either. And full disclosure, I would never never in a million years interview Vladimir Putin, but not because I'd be afraid of the blowback. I'd be afraid to take a sip of water in the presence of Vladimir Putin, because suffice to say, there are people out there who do not want Vladimir Putin alive anymore, and merely being in his orbit puts you at risk. But alas, I am also not Tucker Carlson, but I take comfort in the fact that the world needs all types of people, including neurotic people like myself. And now to the left-wing MSM propaganda hypocrisy. There's the old expression, you can't suck and blow at the same time, and no, it's not a Stormy Daniel expression. The idea being that you can't inhale and exhale at the same time because it's mutually incompatible. You will notice there's a running narrative here that Tucker Carlson is a traitor for interviewing Putin, that he's a Putin mouthpiece, that nobody should be interviewing Putin, that he should be sanctioned for doing it, that he shouldn't be allowed back into the US for doing it. Adam Kinzinger, he's a traitor. Mayo is spicy. Vladimir Putin is a war criminal. Tucker Carlson is a traitor. Donald Trump is a rapist. MAGA is a cult. Any questions? To which I reply, yeah, I've got one question. Did it hurt when you got the lobotomy? Outspoken. Tucker Carlson is a traitor. Bill Kristol, perhaps we need a total and complete shutdown of Tucker Carlson re-entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what is going on. To which I humorously responded, quote, defending democracy, end quote, Zelensky style. On the one hand, you have these idiots, these people who have absolutely no respect for the constitution of their country, although admittedly the constitution of their country might not apply abroad. You have these idiots, these fascist tyrants who want to suppress freedom of speech, stifle journalism, and limit one's ability to travel freely because they don't agree with the people that they interview. It's absolute madness. You have this on the one hand, people saying Tucker Carlson is a traitor, shouldn't be allowed back into the country, should be slapped with sanctions, while simultaneously saying Tucker Carlson is a liar. A lot of other journalists have been asking to interview Putin. I'm not joking. In his video, Tucker Carlson says something along the lines that no other Western journalist has interviewed Putin.
At the same time, our politicians and media outlets have been doing this, promoting a foreign leader like he's a new consumer brand. Not a single Western journalist has bothered to interview the president of the other country involved in this conflict, Vladimir Putin.
And then you got the fact checkers, the community notes at Twitter at one point in time saying, oh, it's not true that no other journalists have requested to interview Putin. Other journalists have requested to interview Putin, so Tucker Carlson is a liar. But just appreciate the sucking and the blowing that is going on at the same time here. You have people saying Tucker Carlson is a traitor for having conducted the interview, while others in MSM are complaining that they have also made requests but weren't granted the interview. Christian Amanpour, I'm looking at you in particular. Christian Amanpour, does Tucker really think we journalists haven't been trying to interview President Putin every day since his full-scale invasion of Ukraine? It's absurd. We'll continue to ask for an interview just as we have for years now. Well, holy crap, should the internet mob now be sicking itself on Christian Amanpour, looking to cancel her because she just admitted publicly that she's been trying to get an interview with Satan himself for the last couple of years? Cancel Christian Amanpour. Now, as relates to her request or her complaining that she made several requests to interview Vladimir Putin but never got the interview, I might suggest that that has something to do with you being a journalistic hack, basically a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party. At the Viva Frei, Tucker is probably wrong in that other people have certainly requested interviews with Putin. Here's the problem, though. You are not a, quote, journalist, end quote. You are a politically motivated activist hack, working for a politically motivated activist hack of an organization at CNN. You have proven your intellectual dishonesty and political bias. You don't deserve an interview with Putin, and he would have to be an idiot to sit down with a political activist hack feigning journalistic integrity. Respectfully submitted. And then I show some screen grabs to actually evidence my homework. And there were countless other examples of hippo-fascists complaining that they also made requests but didn't get an interview, while simultaneously complaining that Tucker Carlson has no business interviewing Putin. The reality, they don't actually think that no one should be interviewing Putin. They are just jealous they didn't get the scoop, and the reason they didn't get the scoop is because they're all useless, politically motivated propagandist hacks who don't have an ounce of interest in the actual truth. They wouldn't actually let anybody speak. It would turn into a hit piece, and Putin is not a dumb man. He knows that damn well. And what's amazing is that everybody seems to already know what is going to be in the interview. I can tell you something. I trust Tucker Carlson as a journalist. I trust him as an intellectually honest person to ask the proper questions, to give a hard time in as much as he is able to give any bit of a hard time, to push back when proper. But the bottom line, sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. The only cure for free speech is more speech, and letting Vladimir Putin talk, everyone should be waiting with bated breath to see what he has to say. If you think the man is a lying authoritarian war criminal, let him speak and let him incriminate himself. Let him say something that the International Court of Justice can use against him. The reality is that people are afraid to let Vladimir Putin speak to the world without the filter of the propagandist MSM, because people might start to really ask themselves the questions, what the hell have I been believing for the last couple of years? All right, I had better get back inside to make sure that I don't miss a call to testify, and I'm going to change. If anybody's wondering why I'm sweating like a pig, it's because I'm sitting in a car, no air conditioning, and I'm doing this for you because I got to get this video out now and let everyone know what I think in as much as anybody cares. And if you do like what I have to say, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe. Viva Frei on Rumble, the Viva Frei on Twitter, vivabarneslaw.locals.com, where everyone can support the work that we do for $10 a month, $100 a year if you buy the entire year, or you can choose just to be a member and not support what we do. We have a great community. Everyone is above average, so feel free to join there. But more important than anything, get out there, talk to people in real life, make sure to read both sides of this story, and now you know your vlog. Peace out, peeps.
2 years into a war that's reshaping the entire world, most Americans are not informed. They have no real idea what's happening in this region, here in Russia or 600 miles away in Ukraine. But they should know. They're paying for much of it in ways they might not fully yet perceive. And yet the populations of the English-speaking countries seem mostly unaware. They think that as nothing has really changed. And they think that because no one has told them the truth. Their media outlets are corrupt. They lie to their readers and viewers. And they do that mostly by omission.